As you may recall, we're one of 23 regional affiliates of the National Minority Supply Development Council. Our mission is to certify, connect, develop, and advocate for minority-owned businesses across the capital region. Guess what? This year we celebrate our 50th, believe it or not, 50th anniversary, and we're operating the U.S. Department of Commerce. In addition to what we do, we're also operating the U.S. Department of Commerce Minority Business Development Agency First Business Center located in the Commonwealth of Virginia. As you recall, we've done the Federal Procurement Center for MBDA. We've done the DC Center for MBDA. Now they even trusted us to operate the first one ever in the history of the 52-year history of MBDA, their Virginia Center. So you can imagine we're very excited about this year as we continue to work to support and share resources with our minority businesses. We hope that you've enjoyed our HotChat podcast discussions featuring our one-on-one conversation with minority businesses, CEOs, political officials, and supply diversity professionals from across the country, from some of the leading companies from across the country. Today, we're speaking with one of the only Senator Ben Cardin, my senator. And as you know, he has been steadfast, unmovable, and working to advance some of the most important legislation of this century for our community of minority-owned businesses. This is surely be a great discussion. I'm excited. Stay tuned with us. When this conversation concludes, visit our website, www.crmsdccares.com, and let us know what other topics you'd be interested in us presenting. Now, before we get started with our conversation with the great senator, allow me to take some time to recognize some of our corporate sponsors. They keep the lights on, and they are committed to supplier diversity. They help us advance our mission so that we can execute and do what we do every day. And starting with Exelon with the BGE Pepco Company, the Hilton, Amicus Capital One, CompuGain, JDC Events, SB and Company, and Stroud Priest. Those are some of our sponsors. Now, let me just tell you, if you don't know, if you've been living under a rock, I need to tell you just a little bit about Senator Ben Cardin. Senator Cardin is the chair of the Senate Committee on Small Business. He was the lead negotiator on the Paycheck Protection Program, PPP, as some of you know it as, that has helped small businesses in Maryland and nationwide weather the economic repercussions of COVID-19 pandemic. And he created the EIDL Advance grant program to quickly get cash to small businesses in need. Senator Cardin was responsible for the extension of increased guarantees and reduced fees in the Small Business Administration's two largest loan program. He's made it a priority to find better ways to provide access to credit for qualified small businesses and entrepreneurs, particularly minority-owned, women-owned, and veteran-owned businesses. He has consistently urged federal agencies to take all steps possible to meet and exceed their modest small business contracting goals. Senator Cardin.
Well, Sharon, first of all, thank you so much. First, thank you for what you do. I mean, your work in regards to the Capital Region Minority Suppliers Development Council has meant so much to developing opportunities in underserved communities with minority suppliers, fairness in our country, and by the way, also help our economic growth as a region. So congratulations to you and what you've been doing for so many years. You mentioned the MBDA program, the Minority Business Development Agency.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to take a little victory lap here because that was included in the bipartisan infrastructure package, an amendment I offered to make it a permanent authorized program, expanding its reach as far as dollar amounts and its jurisdiction, $110 million a year, establishing the Sharon J. Mitchell grants, which are in partnership with HBCUs and MSIs, named after the former congressman from the 7th Congressional District of Maryland, Sharon J. Mitchell, the first African-American to be part of the Maryland congressional delegation. 45 years ago, he authored the amendment that had one of our very first set-asides for minority businesses. We've come a long way in those 45 years. And now we have a permanent agency within the Department of Commerce, the only agency devoted to minority businesses to expand opportunities. So we've made some progress in that regards, and congratulations in your role in the Commonwealth of Virginia. We're very proud of that presence, and we know that you're going to continue to build on the great legacy. But let me just say very quickly the challenge we have ahead of us. The Black population is somewhere around 13 to 14% in this country. The number of employer-owned businesses owned by African Americans, less than 2.5%. So we still have a long way to go. We recognize that, and I am proud of some of the efforts we've been able to pursue under the Biden administration, and I hope we'll have an opportunity to talk about some of these issues.
Absolutely, and we absolutely will. Senator Cardin, thank you. Let me go back to something you said, which I think is pretty significant. As we celebrate Black History Month, I remember when the first time I've come into the hearing room and seeing Perrin J. Mitchell's congressman, the late congressman, on the wall of the room that I was testifying in. And so some of our listeners may not even understand the significance of what you just said around Perrin Mitchell. Can you expand upon that just a bit? I think it's just it begins with him in terms of what he was able to do in terms of the passage of that legislation. And as we now, to your point, years later, we're looking at the same issues and the same problems. But I want to talk a little bit more about that a bit. But what does Perrin Mitchell mean for you?
Well, first, he had to endure a system that didn't give him a fair shake in regards to political representation, in regards to business opportunities, and he decided to do something about it. And against all odds, he ran for the House of Representatives, was elected to the House of Representatives, served in the House of Representatives to become the chairman of the Small Business Committee, but then used that committee to expand opportunities to minority entrepreneurs. And we were in the process of enacting a federal contract grant program. And he says, well, why don't we have a set aside for minority underserved businesses? And because he was chairman, he was able to get that done. And that just ensured that we were going to have some fairness in the use of federal contracting. Now, Sharon, the federal government is the largest purveyor of goods and services in the world. So the federal government can make a huge difference in providing opportunities. And since those days, 45 years ago, we have expanded the contract provisions for a certain percentage of all contracts going to small businesses. We have those that are in underserved communities getting a certain percentage of the business. We have women-owned getting a certain percentage of the contracts. We have veterans, disabled veterans getting certain percentages of the contracts. So from those humble beginnings with Perrin J. Mitchell, we've now expanded the federal government's procurement program to expand opportunities. I'll give you one more example, build on what Perrin J. Mitchell did. As we started the PPP program, you're very kind to talk about the role I played in that. It was so important during COVID-19 to get money in the hands of small businesses. We knew that. So we had a bipartisan group work on legislation that produced $1 trillion of federal aid to America's small businesses. It kept many afloat that wouldn't have been there to start off with. But as we started the program, we found that those in minority communities, small businesses, that didn't have a preferred relationship with a bank were not able to get in line to get the PPP loans because banks wanted to make loans with established customers or larger small businesses, not those that were in underserved communities. So lessons learned, we needed to change the way we allocated those funds. We put money in the hands of the community development financial institutions, CDFIs, that are mission lenders in the underserved communities. And as we went to phase 2 and 3, we were able to get a much fairer allocation of those funds into minority small businesses. I say that because unless you make an effort, the systemic discriminatory conditions in our community will deny equal opportunity. We have to overcome that.
Oh, you said some powerful words there, the systemic issues that we still have in our community. And that's just so great. I want to also also explain to our listeners that what you said be very true in terms of what Pierre Mitchell was faced with then, because since that time, or because of that time, there had been lawsuits that had been filed. He had to actually go to the Supreme Court to actually get this done. I asked someone that was with him when he left the Supreme Court um, after he was victorious in that their decision, what did they do? And he said that the first thing that Congressman Mitchell said to him was that let's get the word out. And if you think back 40 some odd years ago, getting the word out for them was to send out faxes to let people know that it had been done. And so I want to get back to later on as we discuss what can businesses do, because during that time, Congressman Mitchell also had a trust of minority businesses from across the country that would come and testify and come and support. And I want our listeners to understand that minority businesses in particular have a role in support what happens in the things that you do. So I want to come back to that a little bit later. But let's talk about um, the passage, the historic, because I know, Senator, you've been in your seat for 16 years, almost 16 years now. And I would imagine that one day you'll look back and I just will just declare that the passage of making MBDA, codifying that, it's got to be one of your greatest kind of accomplishments. Can you talk? I mean, that people have been trying to do it for 50 years and you did it. And so can you talk about that just a little bit? Because it's so important.
Well, thanks for that. It is a very proud accomplishment. I was reminiscing with Congressman Mfume as to how long we were involved in trying to get the MBDA program enacted. He was involved in his first term of service in the House of Representatives when he and I were both elected in 1987. He was working on it back then. So yeah, it's been a long road to get the MBDA program codified, but just as importantly, expanded. These additional grants, bringing in HBCUs and MSIs, all that is just, to me, exactly where we need to be. We're very proud of the entrepreneurship programs at our HBCUs.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to one of our real distinguished citizens, Mr. Lyles, who's done so much to help in Baltimore. And he's going to expand the opportunities in Morgan State that deal with entrepreneurship. We already have an entrepreneurship program at Bowie State. We have a women's business center at Morgan State. I say that because this will expand opportunities to communities that have been underrepresented in the demographics of our economy. And it becomes so important for individual justice in this country that we use everyone's talent and we narrow and hopefully one day eliminate the income and wealth gaps in America based upon race or any other factor that is unrelated to ability. And quite frankly, these programs will make a huge difference in accomplishing that. That's what America's about.
Mm-hmm.
But just as importantly, Sharon, by doing that, our economy will be a stronger economy for all. America will be more competitive, and the global competition has never been more severe. So this helps deal with the values of our country, the fairness of our country, but also the strength of our country.
And you're absolutely right. Thank you so very much for saying that. In terms of understanding, by investing in the success of minority businesses is crucial. You're absolutely right, to the success of our nation. Can you talk about one of the things that you did accomplish also in this? Because sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, things that are included that people don't understand the impact and what you did as it relates to nonprofits. Can you talk about that just a little bit? And thank you for that, because we're a
Well,
nonprofit.
that was a struggle. We got that when we first started dealing with this. I insisted that we include nonprofits as eligible for the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP program, so that they could survive. You know, the nonprofits, again, if you look at where our attention has been in the past, the nonprofit community helps us deal with public service. And during COVID-19, they would not have survived if we didn't
Mhm.
do something to help. Their contribution levels were down, their service levels were up, and they couldn't. They had workforce issues as we all did as a result of COVID-19. All that meant that they would not have survived, but for the fact that we came in and they were eligible. So, I've heard from so many of the different housing nonprofits, health nonprofits, charity nonprofits, educational nonprofits, as to how they literally survived as a result of being included in the COVID relief package.
Absolutely. I was on a call that you had once, and the churches were on there, and they were very appreciative of that. And people don't understand the stabilization of our communities through our churches. And so to look at that was absolutely awesome as well. Senator, can we talk a little bit about, because there's a lot of jargon that goes around of things that you're doing. When we talk about Build Back Better, you talk about the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, you talk about the American Jobs Plan. Can you kind of decipher that for our audience and talk about the passage of the infrastructure piece, and then talk about the challenges that you're having on the Build Back Better piece?
Right. We have accomplished a great deal. When we started, I mentioned the two largest programs, the Paycheck Protection Program. Then we had the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, the EIDL program. Uh, that program provided not only loans, but advances, grants. The other thing we learned is that the EIDL program was more attractive to the smaller of the small businesses, whereas the PPP program was more attractive to the larger of the small businesses. Quite frankly, we wanted to target those that needed the help the most. And the smaller of the small businesses had less resiliency. They really needed some attention. So in phase 2 and 3, we knew we had to do more to tailor the program to those who really needed it. And quite frankly, the size of the grants and loans in the second part of the program really reflected that we were reaching the underserved communities. So we learned from our experience. We then replenished the funds. We expanded the program to include shuttered venues, entertainment venues. We expanded the program to include restaurants. We also developed a navigator program so that we could have nonprofits reach out to small businesses that otherwise would not be aware of the programs that were available. And then we had this opportunity in President Biden's Build Back Better agenda. And we were given an opportunity to expand programs. And there's been a lot of conversation about what's in the reconciliation Build Back Better, a lot of controversy on size, et cetera. There's been no controversy in regards to the small business provisions, but they're extremely important, extremely important. A proposal that I introduced called the Uplift Bill that allows the SBA to partner with minority small businesses, with HBCUs, with minority serving institutions to establish incubator programs for startup minority companies,
Wow.
to deal with accelerators to take their product and get it into the marketplace, to basically fill the void we have today in minority small businesses on access to venture capital. There's a problem in access to capital generally, but there's
Sure.
a real problem on venture capital. So this allows a much stronger access to obtain venture capital. But we didn't stop there. We also have a direct loan program under 7A. As you know, the 7A program, you got to find a bank. You find a bank, the SBA will guarantee the loan. Well, there's two problems with that. One, banks don't necessarily want to make loans to young or small businesses or small businesses in distressed areas, minority small businesses. They just don't want to do that. And the size of the loans are so small and the cost becomes so great.
Right.
So if the SBA does direct loans, those factors vanish. So you can do the direct loans. In addition, we also have the cost issues. And in the bill, we waive the costs on the 7A loans for these targeted small businesses that will also help them. Then we don't stop there. The SBIC program, the Small Business Investment Companies, great to have public-private partnership to raise capital for small businesses. But you look at the demographics of SBIC managers, it's hard to find minority managers. It's hard to find those in underserved communities. So we put in this Build Back Better agenda an effort for diversifying the SBIC program so that we can have a fair access to this source of capital for minority small businesses. We don't stop there. We have a separate program for returning citizens, Second Chance. We know here is an area where we could have vast improvements. So we have that in our bill. So we are looking at ways in which we can help the traditionally underserved community. We have a smaller loan program known as the Community Advantage 7A loan program. That is reaching minority communities and underserved communities. We want to make that program from a pilot program to a permanent program. That's also in the Build Back Better agenda. So we have all these issues that are targeted to making the SBA tools available in a fair manner to traditionally underserved communities. And we're optimistic that if we get this to the finish line, it'll make a real difference.
Wow, that is incredible. And I think it's great news to share. Senator, as we look at the reach that we have as an organization, nationally, we have about 13,000 minority businesses that are certified through our organization, through our relationships as being an operator of the MBDA centers and our engaged there. There are thousands of more minority businesses. One of the things I think that we can do a better job at is coming together as businesses to support those kinds of things that are beneficial. How can we help?
Well, thank you for that question, Sharon. We want to get this to the finish line. So as everybody's sort of talking about all the big ticket items, let's find a way to get this relatively modest proposals, $25 billion. Let's find a way to get this to the finish line and get it done. And I think if we all concentrate on this, I know I have the support of the Biden administration. We're going to look for a vehicle. We hope it's in the budget reconciliation, Build Back Better. If it's not, let's figure out that we have that bill. If we don't have that bill, let's find a different way to get this to the finish line.
So can we do that through supportive letters, showing up on your doorstep? How do we get, what is it that you can advise us to help with that?
I think communications to the Biden administration showing your support and communications to the House and Senate leadership that these are important programs. This is a once in a generation opportunity. Let's get it right.
Okay, and I think I am going to commit that we will organize to do exactly that. And so we'll be reaching out to your office for sure.
Thanks.
No, thank you for all that you do. Anything else that you can share with us, Senator?
Well, there is one other issue on a good news basis. Everybody talks about the infrastructure bill that was passed, which is $1.2 trillion. We put in there specific provisions for minority contracting. So, we recognize that's another opportunity where we can get contracts in disadvantaged communities. So there are lots of opportunities out there. Let's make sure we follow through and get that done.
Okay. Just absolutely wonderful. Senator, I am just pleased as punch that we have you here today and that you've given us many kind of insights. Just one more question. I know that you have a busy afternoon. As we look across our state and our country, we see a post-pandemic environment and situation. We see the impact on our communities as it relates to crime, let's say. And I didn't know what thoughts you had, because as we, the second phase of the civil rights movement, I believe, is all the things that you're doing as it relates to the economic piece, and economic freedom. How do we help with, and what is any suggestions or thoughts of what we can do as entrepreneurs or business owners or advocates as it relates to any thoughts around the crime piece? I just wanted to tap there.
Thanks for that. Look, the theme of this year's Black History Month is health and wellness. And to a degree, it deals with the violence we have in our community. I must tell you, my number one priority in regards to Baltimore is to bring down the violent crime in the city. I've had conversations with the Department of Justice, with our new U.S. Attorney, Eric Barron, and with the mayor and with the police commissioner. And our full delegation is working with the Biden administration to get resources to work with the community to bring down violent crime. But we also know that COVID-19 has been more damaging to minority communities. There's more vulnerability. And Sharon, quite frankly, we're just starting to understand how deep of damage it did, particularly to young people, the last couple of years of not having their full experiences in schools and socialization, et cetera. And again, the underserved communities are the most vulnerable communities. So as we look at having healthier communities, as we look at some of the underlying problems that we have, we need to invest significantly in mental health services and school-based programs in order to help our youth. Most of the violent crime we see is very much related to young people that we have to make sure we have a game plan to deal with this. So it's a complicated issue, but thanks for raising it. We had a conversation literally about this today with the White House, and we're going to continue those discussions.
Thank you, Senator, for all you do. We pray for your continued success, and we're just very grateful. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. It's good to be with you again, Sharon. Thank you for everything that you do, and we're going to work together in partnership.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, U.S. Senator Ben Cardin. That was so exciting. Loved it, loved it, loved it. I learned an extremely amount of information today, an extreme amount of information, and I hope that you find it of value as well. So that concludes our discussion with Senator Cardin today. Thank you very much for taking time out of your very busy schedules to connect with us and share the information. And so anyone who has a desire to learn more about the elements and benefits of new legislation, feel free to visit the Small Business Committee website, and we'll post that. You'll see that right there. And for those who are just listening, is www.sbc for Small Business Committee.senate.gov/public. So we're grateful for that. Now we're going to take the time to recognize some of our corporate sponsors. Before we do that, I think that what we really have to soak on is what is it that we can do, and whether it is supporting legislators like Ben Cardin in their steadfastness relative to getting things done that benefit the minority business community, whether it is stepping forward to say that, no more, let's figure out how to solve crime issue, disparity issues, issues of economic impact for minority businesses. What is it that you're going to do? And I think each and every one of us have to answer that question. So on with the sponsors. I want to recognize our corporate sponsors. You see them here. If you're listening, is AARP, Allianz, AT&T, BAE Systems, BWI, Thurgood Marshall Airport, Dominion Energy, Ellison, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FRS, Horseshoe, Ideal, Leidos, Lockheed Martin, M&T Bank, Mass Mutual, McCormick, Northrop Grumman, Peapod, PNC, Salesforce, Sodexo, Truist, United States Postal Service, Washington Gas, Metro, WSSC Water, Zillion Technology, and Zones. Thank you all for supporting our mission. And now before we go, we have some upcoming events. We are going to talk to Miss Selena Cuffey. She is the president of Sodexo Magic and co-founder of Heritage Link Brands. That we have her coming up. Thank you for our coronavirus response and relief team, and to Graybo Media for all their hard work behind the scenes to help us deliver this great content for you today. And lastly, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, At CRMSDC is our handle, and you can listen to our podcast on Spotify, on Google, and Apple. So thank you, and see you the next time.